Good morning. My hand today is going to be Ace 4 of Hearts from the big blind. Button raises. Unfortunately, Button has only been here for 16 hands, so it's hard to figure out what he has. I have a 4-bet range of aces. I have a limp and call a raise of 9. On the button, I have to assume. So his steal stats, he hasn't attempted to steal 0 out of 1. So this is the first time that he's attempted to steal. Now, Villain 5 calls, and then I raise to 12, and he calls. So I wanted to get to this point so that we can kind of start to build his range a little bit better. So it doesn't look like Villain raises pre-flop a whole lot. Even his raise first in pre-flop out of 16 hands, it is 1 out of 7, so 14%. He hasn't really even limped first in, so it seems like most of the times that he's played it, he's been calling. So I kind of think he's going to be somewhat of a tighter range. So some big cards, maybe some pocket pairs. He might not even have all pocket pairs here, but I do have queens plus ace king, and then since he didn't 4-bet, I'm going to say that he probably doesn't have those. I would assume he would 4-bet queens. We could check it. I mean, we could include it and say he only 4-bets aces, but I think this is an 11% range. This is awfully small for a button. But even if he's raising wider, this could be a range that he ends up calling. When I raise the 12 big blinds. So I think this is probably okay. It gives us a at least a starting point. It gives us a starting point. So we see, and then my button 3-betting range looks something like this. Something pretty wide. So I've got ace 2 to ace 7 suited. I've got ace 4 looking pretty good. Flop comes down, ace 8 2. We hit top pair. We do have backdoor straight, but no flushes. I decided to c-bet here since I 3-bet. I do think that's probably the right play. I think it's different if we raise the limpers, but since we 3-bet, I think we have to be aggressive here, especially with our ace 4. So I bet. He calls. Turns a 3, so now we have a gut shot. And question is, do I check? Do I bet? Pot's 53. I have 78, so I have a little bit more than pot, so I bet half pot. And when I bet it, I wasn't too thrilled with it because of stack sizes. I bet because I still have top pair. I've got a backdoor straight draw now. So if I'm behind, I still have the 5. However, I think he does have aces with better kicker. What I was kind of hoping for, what I didn't want to see happen, was I check and he bets 53. I don't really want to see that, so I thought if I bet half, maybe he calls with those hands. It gives me a chance to see the river. Well, it didn't happen. He raised, and then it's on me, and I folded. So what I wanted to do was kind of look at our play, our flop and turn play. Maybe adjust Villain's range a bit. We can make it wider, make it tighter, and see how that plays out. So let's check out our GTO. We have our first decision looks to be bet, c-bet. So kind of am getting that part down. Since we 3-bet pre-flop, we just go ahead and make our continuation bet on the flop, even though we are out of position now. What does Villain do? He's going to call top pair hands. He's going to call with some middle pair hands. He's going to call with some backdoor draw hands, or at least if he plays GTO, that's how he should be doing it. So 3 spades comes next, and this was my decision. So typically, if we c-bet at very high frequency, we don't c-bet as much on the turn because we have a lot of cards that had missed. So right here, it looks like we are going to be checking 72% of the time. We have ace 4 hearts, so it does look like we are supposed to check here. So if we check and he bets, something big, not quite pot, but that's, I don't know, 75% pot. Then it looks like we raise here. Okay, so we raise instead. Let's go back to our checks. So ace king bets for value. Some of our ace queens bet. So we bet some with the ace of spades, but not necessarily the queen of spades. All right, so we bet with ace king, bet some with ace queen. Our spade draw with ace queen, ace jack. It's a check. Ace has got to be a check raise. Queen, we're betting again. Kings, we check. Okay, so really we're betting ace king, top pair, top kicker, and some of our ace queens, definitely favoring if we have the ace of spades, but we're not betting with our spade draw. So if we check and he bets, which is possible, I mean, I would probably play something like that. Then villain calls with aces. That would have been like a raise. Let's see what happens if he calls, and then I check, and he bets again, and we call. So we're just, with trips, we're just kind of check calling. I guess since with aces we just block the board so much. We've got most of the hands that it doesn't make sense to raise, because if we raise, what hands are we going for? 2s and 8s, maybe 3s. He'll bet those hands for us, especially if the spade doesn't come in. Why don't we just, I guess if we call here, check, and he bets, I think that's probably going to be all in there, or it's all in for me, because I don't have that option of call or fold. So okay, so I think I could understand the aces. Ace king, ace queens, we're check raising all in. Ace jack, we're check raising all in if we have the spade, but not otherwise. Queens, some of our queens. So I thought we were betting queens, so half the time we check queens. He bets, we call, or actually raise the remaining ones. But I think ace 2, ace 3, ace 4, ace 5, I can understand ace 2, ace 3 that we are check raising here. But ace 4, ace 5 is kind of interesting. So we're using ace 4 and ace 5 as a bluff. We have to be using it as a bluff with a low kicker. Maybe we'll get ace queen, ace jack to fold. That's an interesting hand. That's an interesting hand. So let's say we do raise it. I mean, we're raising it all in, and then it doesn't matter. He should be calling. He's folding 43% of the time, calling 56. And we're still gonna have some outs. Obviously, his top pair is gonna have us out kicked, but we could catch a 4, we could catch a 5 to improve. Yeah, top pair, 3 of a kind. Okay. So what if we bet and he raises? So I would have had some ace 4s. Some of these very small percentages. And then I think that's kind of matches what we had. Ace 4. It was hearts, but ace king, ace queen calls, ace jack. That's going to be a rough one. Ace 6 of spades call. So basically just the spades. If we have the flush draw, we're going to be calling because we've got flush draw and the gut shot. Okay. Okay, I can go with that. I'm gonna guess this applies to any other of these threes. So 3 of hearts. Yeah, it does look like we are gonna be checking here. And if he bets, do we go for the check raise? We do. We go for the check raise with ace 4, ace 5. That's a play that I don't normally do. So this is rather interesting. I'm gonna have to really remember how to, remember this play and remember the line. All right, so let's adjust the hand. He really hasn't raised. So let's say this is the first time that he could steal it. And he raises. He bets, I raise, and he calls. Let's start here. Build tree. Let us run the solver. So he's got a wider range. I took out the queens. I think he would 4-bet there. I think ace king should 4-bet. Maybe he doesn't. Let's add ace king. So let's say he only 4-bets with aces and kings. And let's see what GTO says. All right, we are done. So versus that wider range, we start to check a little bit more. We can check some of our small aces. I think we had hearts, so we don't really have backdoor draws. I think GTO looks like it's favoring bets in this case, making C bets, but even then, we're still C betting most of the time. It's more of a mixed strategy, so probably like flip a coin with the ace 6, ace 7, ace 3, 4s, and 5s suited. Looks like we are, saying, you could say, let's say hearts and spades we bet, but clubs does not. Something like that. That kind of gets us at our closer at that frequency that we need, which is a little bit more than two thirds, and obviously it's not 2/3 if we bet 2 but check 1, but it gives us a mixed strategy here. So I do think we're okay with betting. And then he calls. His call, definitely all these aces. I'm not surprised. Queens is calling. Some of these king queens could call. Maybe he does that. Middle pair calls. Pocket pair, let's say middle pair calls. Some of the weak pairs we're just calling to see what I have, what I do. And I think if I bet, I don't think I see him raising with those. I really don't. But maybe he does. Maybe he has 5-4 here. So he calls, and then we bet at a lower frequency. Now at this time we have. Gonna go back here. Aces and kings is a check. So I think aces goes back to, we basically block a huge number of his hands when we have 2 aces. With kings, I think this is somewhat typical versus a wider range. We're either way ahead or way behind at this point, typically when we have kings. So what we could do is check call and then check them on the turn. Really no point in betting. If the flop gets checked through, we could always bet with them. So say it goes check check, we could always bet with them. But typically when you have this, when you have those kings and queens and so forth, you check the turn again. What you're hoping for is that that gives villain confidence in betting into us, and maybe betting, let's say, an 8-9 or an 8-7, and those would have been hands that would have folded to a C bet. So yeah, just aces and kings. I think aces again, don't bet those. It's tempted to bet them because we hit top trips, but if his range has a lot of suited aces, we've just blocked a huge number of them. So we bet, we call. Now we're betting 31%. We can bet with ace 4, so ace 4 now becomes like half bet. I think we're probably okay. So if we bet and he raises that small percentage, what is his raise? Raise some top pair. If he raises, then it looks like we are folding ace-4. So even if he's playing GTO with this wider range, I think we're doing okay. We did fine. But could we have done better? Could we have checked here? If we check, villain raises, then we could be check raising. So here's the difference. So in the first hand, he was ahead a much tighter range that it really isn't raising much pre-flop. I'm sorry, range that is what, 11%. Now we've increased his range. Our ace-4 hand, instead of our ace-4, ace-5 hand, instead of becoming check raises with basically all of them, it's now check calls unless we have that spade draw. So we're check raising with 2-pair. We're check raising with top pair, top kicker. We're doing it somewhat with top pair, second kicker. A6 and A7, very small percentage. So I think this ace-4, ace-5 is those are our bluffing ranges. I think we have value with these two pair and value with top pair, top kicker. Ace-queen might be kind of on that breaking point between value and bluffing. So yeah, wider range. We're less inclined to check raise here with our ace-4 of hearts. All right, so I think we're going to end it here. We're going to work through this hand. Tighter range, go for that check raise on the turn. Wider range, when he has a lot of aces, it makes sense more to check call. So if we check, he bets. Makes a little bit more sense to call with those. But if we have the spades, go for that check raise. Definitely when we bet and he raises, we are looking at just folding, unless we did one of these bets with the spade draw. All right, hopefully you enjoyed this. If you do, look tomorrow for another hand.